All right, it's time we started getting real. After all, you've been slogging away in lecture all your life. The great thing about chemistry is, unlike some of those other courses out there, you get to take what you're doing and actually do it. The time for talk is through. The time for doing has started. And the class where you get to do it is Chemistry Lab. You've signed up for a hybrid lab. Your hybrid lab meets 2 Saturdays. They're shown on the front page of your syllabus in this area. Now, obviously, you're going to have different dates in your printed copy. Go by the dates in your printed copy. This is just what I'm using for an example. The lab meets from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on those 2 Saturdays. However, every single Wednesday, you have a pre-lab lecture to do and a pre-lab quiz to take. But I digress. I'm getting way ahead of myself. I forgot to even introduce myself. My name is Dr. Kelly. I'm located in beautiful Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And Elizabethtown, Kentucky is located in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, New York time. Be aware of that if you're listening to me in the Central Time Zone, i.e. Western Kentucky, Madisonville, Paducah, etc. Nothing wrong with Western Kentucky. I'm a native Murrian. Go Tigers. But we're in Elizabethtown's an Eastern Central Time Zone. Is in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, and therefore we're going off of that. Phone. I rarely answer my phone. If you have me for lecture, I've gone into why I rarely answer my phone there, so I won't belabor the point here. I have a question help message board that I'll talk about later on in this discussion. That's the way to communicate with me. You are required to have a textbook for this course. Your textbook is available from one place and one place only, so pay attention. Your textbook's available from KCTCS, well, this web address here. Let's go to it. All right, this is the bookstore where you're going to find your textbook. Do not select online. You need to select Elizabethtown Community and Technical College. For purposes of buying this lab book, you are an Elizabethtown Community and Technical College student. So click Elizabethtown Community Technical College. It sends you here. Find textbooks. Go to textbooks here. Find textbooks. Term, ECTC Fall 2015. Department, Chemistry. 175 or 185 works. Either way, you'll find a book, 175, 185. They use the same textbook. Any of the section numbers will work. Doesn't matter. Choose one at random. Find materials for the course. And ta-da, here's your textbook. Doesn't matter if you buy it used or new. Just buy it. Yes, it's $60, but it's a 2-semester book. If you didn't have me for the first semester, well, you lost out on one of the most wonderful experience of your life. If this is your first semester with me, then awesome. You'll be using this book next semester, which breaks down to $30 a semester for a textbook. There's not a better deal out there that I am aware of. All right, so that's how you find your textbook. In addition to your textbook, you need to have chemical splash goggles. Chemical splash goggles. Chemical splash goggles can be found, where are we going here? Supplies. You can go to usually medical, let's see here. Miscellaneous specialty. Here we go. Under miscellaneous specialty, you'll see chemical splash goggles. You don't have to buy them from the bookstore, although that's a very good price. They've lowered their price. You do have to buy something that says chemical splash goggles. Wood chipper goggles are not acceptable. If you find some goggles that have a bunch of little holes all over the place, don't buy them. They have to look like this, right, with the 4 vents there. Additionally, in addition to chemical splash goggles, you also need a lab notebook. Now, some places expect you to spend $15 and buy a very expensive carbon copy thing. I don't want that. That's a lot of money. I'm just wanting one of these composition books right here, right? I don't really care which one. Let's see here. Right, I'm wanting something like that. The Marble Mead notebook. The big thing is, and I'm really strict on this, no spiral notebooks. I don't know how to say it any stronger or any more definitively. Do not bring me a spiral notebook. If you bring me a spiral notebook, it will cost you points on every single lab. No spiral notebooks. It has to be a notebook with a hard cover, and by hard cover I mean a cardboard one. And it has to be one with sewn pages. Has to be sewn pages. The Mead composition books are great. You can find them on sale now, some places, like at 25 cents each. Normally they're like $1.25 to $2, but you can find them anywhere. The bookstore appears to be charging $2 for them. But that's what you're wanting. The Mead composition notebooks. It doesn't have to be Mead brand. I had a student say, I couldn't find Mead brand. Don't care. You can use the generic as well. That's perfectly acceptable here. Although they appear to be charging the same. Ooh, that's a small one. I don't want the small ones. Where are we here? That's like pint-sized. I'm wanting the normal Mead-sized composition notebooks here. Did they not have normal-sized ones? I'm wanting the normal-sized note. But at any rate, that's what I'm wanting in terms of equipment. One other thing here, I do want a calculator. Do not bring a $100 graphing calculator into lab. I have had a student once who did not listen to me and brought their $100 graphing calculator in lab. They spilled something on it and destroyed it. So even if you own one of those $100 scientific calculators, spend $10 to buy yourself a scientific calculator as an insurance policy, right? You spill something on it, you're out $10, $15 as opposed to $100. Periodic table will also prove useful to you in lab. If you have me for lecture, I've given you one to print out. How to take this course. What are you going to be doing? This course functions on a Wednesday schedule, meaning every single Wednesday you're going to go to Blackboard and you're going to do an assignment. And by that I mean a pre-lab assignment. So let's go to Blackboard and leave the bookstore. Bye-bye, bookstore. All right. You're in your course shell. Let me get it to look where your view is here. Okay. You see the button over here that says Labs. That's where you're going to find your pre-labs or your daily assignments. Inside each of these folders, you'll find a lecture to listen to. And in addition to a lecture, you'll find a pre-lab quiz. You need to listen to the lecture, the pre-lab lecture, and then take the pre-lab quiz. You have a pre-lab to do every Wednesday. You have 1 week to do it, most of the time. Sometimes I have to give you less time. If you look at the syllabus, scroll, 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 scroll. You come to this page. This is your schedule page. It gives you the name of the pre-lab, the date you should do it, and the date where the pre-lab is considered late. Most of the time it's a week. It's not always. Something very important to note. You have to have your pre-labs completed by 11:59 p.m. the night before the wet lab day. If you do not do these pre-labs I will not let you participate in the wet labs. I'll even go a step farther. If you have failing grades in your pre-labs, I will not let you do the wet labs. I have in the syllabus here in bold letters highlighted, failure to complete pre-labs on time can result in the student losing the right to perform the lab. Failure to complete more than one pre-lab on time can result in the student losing the right to participate in lab, period. So if you don't do 2 pre-labs, I won't let you do any of the labs on the wet day, resulting in an E. So you have to get those pre-labs done. Let's take a look at the pre-lab quizzes, just in case you don't have me in lecture. Actually, I won't go into the lecture procedure now. I'll save that for an additional video later. But make sure you do listen to those pre-lab lectures and then do the pre-lab quizzes. In addition to doing the pre-lab lectures and the pre-lab quizzes, you should set up your lab notebook. Every pre-lab lecture will contain instructions on how to set up your lab notebook for that lab. So when you walk in the day to do the wet lab, those two 12-hour Saturdays, your lab notebook should already contain your purpose, procedure in the lab notebook, and you should have your data tables already set up. In other words, when you come to class on the wet lab day, the only thing you should be writing in your lab notebook is writing your data in the tables you've already made, and then doing your calculations and writing your conclusions. Being able to complete the wet labs in that 12-hour period depends on you having listened to the pre-lab lecture and read the procedures and set up your lab notebook prior to showing up to class. This class only works if you do the advanced work. If you don't do your Wednesday work, then you're not going to be able to do your Saturday work. Unfortunately, I have, upon occasion, I've been doing this now for about 4 years, every semester, and I've had 2 or 3 people who have shown themselves not to be prepared during that time. Because chemistry lab can be a dangerous place, your participation in the lab is at my discretion. The instructor has the right to ask you to leave the lab and fail you for the semester or the day if he feels you present a safety hazard. Specific things that would represent a safety hazard is if you are horse playing or if you don't know what you're doing. I had a student who did not know what they were doing. They were persistently grabbing the wrong chemicals and mixing the wrong chemicals together. They weren't reading instructions. They were grabbing random chemicals almost and mixing them together. They were going to kill themselves or somebody else if they weren't asked to leave the lab. So I failed them. Another example, you'll be working with a lab partner. I had 2 lab partners working. I noticed that one seemed to be just observing the other one. After watching 2 or 3 labs where one lab partner was doing all the work and the other one was just observing, I said to the lab partner who was just observing, I want you to go back and repeat the lab that the other person just did because you didn't help them at all. That student didn't even know where to begin, and they just watched the other student do it. What do you think I did to them? I failed them, right? You are responsible, even working with a lab partner, for knowing what's going on. But I'm giving you some extreme examples. If you horseplay in lab, I had somebody throw a football across the lab. I love football, but lab's not the place for it, right? I had another person try to set themselves on fire in lab. I asked them to leave the lab. So those are the sort of things that will get you cut from lab. Last semester, I had 2 people who failed the class before even the first wet lab day. Why? Because when I checked to see who had done the pre-labs the Wednesday before the lab, they hadn't done half the pre-labs. So I told them they couldn't participate and they would receive an E in the course. So do those pre-labs. Also, dress appropriately. It's a real temptation on this first lab day where the weather's still kind of nice to show up in shorts and sandals. You cannot show up in shorts and sandals. You can't show up in a short skirt. You can't show up in flip-flops. Your legs have to be completely covered. Attendance on your wet lab days is mandatory. I can't give you a makeup, right? So ask off with your boss right now for time for that Saturday. Make arrangements with your ex to watch the kids. Do whatever it takes. You have to be there those 2 lab Saturdays. You also need to be present at the start of class. Some of you are driving a long distance. So if you're 10 minutes late, I'm not going to kill you on the Saturday labs like I would if you were in my, well, I wouldn't kill you, but I'm not going to kick you out like I would from our regular students then on my weekly labs. But you need to be there at 9 o'clock sharp. Another thing to consider about being on time is water rises to its own level, right? And if you're late, who are you going to wind up with as a lab partner? You're going to wind up with a lab partner who is also late. Yes? So you need to be on time. If you arrive too late, and I'm not defining too late on purpose, if you arrive too late, you may be denied the ability to participate in the lab. See, withdrawal policy is the same as the lecture. One thing I would say, if you withdraw from lecture, you must also withdraw from the lab, because you won't know what's going on in the lab unless you're in both. You have to wear chemical splash goggles. I'm trying to think of other things here. All right. I guess the only thing left, therefore, is for you to listen to the second part of the welcome lecture over how to use the question and help message board. And that's it. I look forward to meeting you face-to-face on a Saturday. If you have questions, by all means, ask. The only bad question is one left unasked. That's it. Beep.